Welcome to 30 Minutes of Faith. We're very happy this day to have Jim T. Chong with us, the walk star, a man I've known several years now and a man who is important in our community. Welcome.
Great, thank you. It's really great to be here.
Appreciate you being here. Tell us about where you were born and raised.
Well, I was born in a wonderful place called Marysville, California. And, I was really excited just coming into the world there. And a lot of rich history I found out to be in Marysville. It is across from another city called Yuba City. And it is just a wonderful place. And that's where I found out later that really a lot of the Chinese people actually immigrated there. There's a lot of railroad tracks and stuff there as well, and cable car tracks as well, that really highlighted the culture that's
A
there.
nice sanctuary and monuments and things to the Chinese people in Marysville.
Yeah, absolutely. And they had what they called the Bokkai Parade. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And it was really a fun time. We liked it because, one, we had a lot of freedom to run around, and at that time, be able to light a lot of firecrackers.
How about, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have my brother. My older brother passed away actually several months ago.
Sorry.
And he'd been, he's been a fighter. He's been really a catalyst in our family, really the protector of the family, and he's been in many ways my hero for what he's done to really do a lot of good in the world. He always spoke his mind, was really helpful with my dad in certain situations in terms of not letting people take advantage of my dad. And then I have two older sisters as well, and so I'm very excited just to have experienced family. And at this time, what I wanted to share is a very special time because, ironically enough, I serve on the committee of a foundation called Healings in Motion, a 10-year nonprofit dedicated to stroke awareness, prevention, and we put on some really great events, that have served hundreds of people, and we've taught a lot about even how to prevent, be preventative for stroke, and I run a program in one of the hospitals there, and ironically enough, a couple people I love dearly over the last couple years have had stroke, and just learning how to deal with it is a lot different in terms of conveying information, helping people see what they need to do versus being in the thick of it. Because my dad's memory is going, he had a stroke many, many years ago, but he's been doing okay. But a couple people I also love very dearly had a stroke. My brother had a stroke before he passed away. So I bring that up because I think there's a lot of history that is being built, and I think I have good memories of just people in my family.
Now, I know that you're deeply involved in a lot of different things and you stay plenty busy. How old were you when you decided you sort of wanted to be busy and an activist and get involved?
Yeah, activist is a strong word. I don't know if that's the word, but I guess that's what it is, right? I'm really making things happen. I think at a real young age, I really underestimated what it was, what value I gained from even being on little things like being on the council in high school. But I think really making a difference, we just kind of did it. It was fun. And when I think back to the question you're asking us, it's a pretty interesting question. I would say that's a time where I felt like I really wanted to make a difference. And I remember a lot of people wanted me to be president at that time of the class, right? That was a big prominent role. I wanted to be vice president. And so, but we did a lot of great things. And I think from there was something put inside of me that I wanted to do something more than just get educated. I really wanted to really impact people and really make a change for the good. And I will tell you, and I say this humbly, that I think the situations that make us realize that we should do good is when we do not so good. And I remember one of our friends just growing up in high school, we play these little games. And there was somebody that we know liked this one girl that we hung out with. We were really good friends. And I was a really good friend with him. And we had her call him, and it was just like, like she liked him, and let's meet at the roller rink. We were younger kids, we didn't know what we were doing. But so of course, she met him, and we came. Well, he went there, and then we all came out later, and it was just a big laugh. And I realized that was so wrong, because he turned to me and said, "I thought you were really my friend." And that had a really profound impact on me. And I think about it from time to time. And I would say that was really the the catalyst to make me think about really, do I need to really be doing these bad things,
All of us have one of those stories in
Yeah.
our life, I think. How about, did you grow up in a religious home?
We grew up in, actually, ironically enough, a Buddhist home, but I was given a lot of freedom. We had great parents that let us pretty much believe what we wanted to believe, and so there's a lot of tradition and this rich in culture, where we basically bowed to the ancestors, more, not so much ancestral worship, I would say it's out of respect. And so we went to the temple every year, and so our home itself was more Buddhist based, but I realized that my dad also had a faith in God. And like anyone else's story, it was kind of interesting because he went to a Christian church. I had a chance to talk with him about that. And one of the things that he was really hurt by was when he really had a time of need. Unfortunately, that I'm not saying they're wrong, I wasn't there, but he felt like they really just kind of turned their back on him, and so it turned him around to be, to become Buddhist, at that time. So.
And that is also a story we hear all too frequently.
Yeah.
And what about after high school? What did you go do?
Well, after high school, I went to a place called, I think some people have heard of it, UC Berkeley. And go Bears. And so that was very exciting, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about independence. All those stories about waiting last minute to pass the test, where you study is all true. And I had a lot of fun there, a lot of freedom, learned a lot, and made a lot of new friends there as well. And then I actually was reached out to. I did go to church, by the way, when I was younger, and went to different sorts of faith, primarily Pentecostal, as well as I went to the Catholic Church, just kind of exploring, I think searching. And then I was invited to this event that talked about the meaning of life, and it was a really good experience. And so I had been with that church for many years, a few decades actually. And it really helped my faith grow in God. And from there, it was just all about connection, outreach. I would say that the things to prepare me for good was really implemented during this time period, because in church I had a chance to play a very active role in terms of really helping Bible studies grow. It was a very strong church, and it was all about world missions and stuff too. So talk about being able to really have a vision for the world is really exciting.
Now, the Interfaith Council, of course, busies itself trying to reach out to everyone and help everybody understand we're all children of God and that we should love and live and be together in all the things we do. So let's fast forward to how busy you are these days. Can we start with the fact that that everybody knows you as the Walk Star?
Right.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, it actually started out as a joke. And it actually evolved, and I found the branding of it was really strong. So I actually started working with a lot of communities just by osmosis. We moved to Stockton, California, and we actually was moving in a really good part of Stockton from the Bay Area, and I had a software company back then, but I wanted to get involved. So I really started to reach out to a lot of the communities there, people that run the downtown of Stockton, all the way to the people that ran what they call the Miracle Mile there as well. And then just different communities that I started to get involved in. And I thought, hey, this volunteering is really good. And I really wanted to do good. And I realized that then, because when I make a commitment, I pretty much make a commitment. Most people know that if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. And sometimes it's funny because I have some people that I volunteered for, like Healings of Motion is one organization I mentioned, very near and dear to my heart. The Central Valley Asian American Chamber is another organization down there. That when I made a commitment to one specific organization, she said, "Oh, I hear people say they're going to do something all the time, but wow, you really came through, And specifically for Healings of Motion, I run one of their programs, as I mentioned, in one of the hospitals right now in the St. Joseph's Medical Center on a monthly basis. But I really believe that we are here not to just work singularly, but really to work as communities. So my endeavor has always been to bring communities together. And I'm on right now the executive council of 5, if you count this other one, 6 community organizations, very active in the role of just bringing things together. And what, by mistake, I can't say it's because I have this great heart. I just want to serve. And by osmosis, I just have been able to see things from different vantage points. So I see things that happen in different organizations, and it really strikes me. It's true that if you're alone, you're not as strong as when you're together. It's a very biblical principle, and it's true with organizations. So what I'm really all about right now is really advancing communities, and also advancing cultures to come together, and also commerce as well. Hence, the walk star. You look at the symbolism of the walk. This was also one of the things I wish I could have said, I'm so brilliant in putting this together, but I thought about, what do you use a walk for? What do you use a walk for usually? What do you do with a walk? Yeah, what do you do with the ingredients? You mix them up, right?
Yeah.
That's where I saw this really came into play. So really what I'm doing, I'm fortunate enough to be able to serve many communities. I get hired from many communities, and I do some things benevolently as well. I've done a lot of benevolent things. The reason why I share that is because what I realize is that there is this need for communities to really come together and work together. And what I mean by that is that there's a group that I went to, they're a personal development company called Clemmer and Associates. They teach about the win-win philosophy. We hear about that, right?
Right.
And what I realize on an individual level, sometimes for business, we think that, well, if you're creating your win and people are going to you, guess what's happening to me? I must be losing somewhere. It happens the same way at an organizational level. Whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit organization, on our show, I have a radio show, Rush Hour for Success, on Monday 105.5 here, along with Cammie Ferry in Greater Sacramento. I'm the walk star, she's a theater queen. But the whole thing is, I realize money does drive everything. And it's true with nonprofits. It does become, unfortunately, about the money. And I'm not saying this is a real bad thing, because it's just, we understand we need money to make things work. But unfortunately, I think that's why sometimes communities don't come together, because I've seen it, A lot of fundraisers, which are really great endeavors to support a great cause, same thing. If you're making a lot of money for your cause, guess what's happening to my cause?
You're losing.
I'm losing. It doesn't have to be that way. So really what I'm working on is really using the influence I have, the different communities I'm working with, to be able to get that concept going. If we move forward together, we are stronger together. And so I think this is a very important philosophy, because I think that affects me sometimes. Sometimes I feel insecure, like, hey, that person's really gaining there. What's going on with me? Then I have to get myself back on track. It's really about us all moving forward together. So that's really what my endeavor is.
Were you taught benevolence in the home you grew up in, or did you have to learn that? How did that come to be?
I will have to say, I don't think it was like we were taught that per se, but I'll tell you, just the way my mom was, very simple a woman. She took care of the family. She taught me how to give, how to love. She spoke, we call it Chinglish, right? A little bit more Chinese, and then Glish. So I spoke kind of broken Chinese. That's where I learned broken Chinese. But my dad was a very hard worker. So yeah, I have to say God used them to really create the roots of giving. But then I saw incredible hearts. Mai Nguyen, who works with the Vietnamese community. That was really my first endeavor in terms of a community where I saw somebody really willing to sacrifice for a community, and seeing all the wonderful things that happen there and the challenges that are faced there as well. We have Mary Nicholson, who has a cause of really helping people that face a major life disabilitating situation because of something that happened to her. Chris Lambert, a 3-time wounded veteran that I really respect. He speaks on behalf of the military all the time. He's very active and very sought after. But I just see their hearts. And I'll tell you, it really made me think about, what do I want my life to be? And so that's where I think these examples of people, they do matter. And hey, I wish I could say that I've got such a great heart, I want to serve, but really, I saw that as my responsibility as well, to be the best example I could be, because I could be influenced by the wrong people too. Ultimately, the core, I believe, of who I am is really liking to serve, and so people will notice, they look at me doing a lot of different things sometimes, which can be confusing, right? I thought you did this, this, and this. But for me, I say it really all comes together. And now it is true, I'm learning to focus it all, because people need to understand what the message is all about. but bringing together communities for the common good is really what I'm really looking for. So I feel very honored to, I get a chance to MC these different parades in cities. I'll be doing one in, we did one here in Sacramento, South Sacramento, with the Vietnamese community. There are thousands of people there, Chinese community in Stockton, California. But I want this to be meaningful. And so I want to support the youth. I really want the communities to be pulled together, ethnic communities and business communities to all come together. So that's kind of what I'm about. And I love speaking, connecting with people, but really I think it's purposeful to really help promote the people that are doing good, supporting the greater good.
So how long has it taken from here to go back to, was it your grandparents who were immigrants to the United States?
Yeah.
So 3 generations.
Yes.
They left home, and now you're where you are. And
yeah.
Are your sisters living in this area?
Yeah, in Sacramento. One lives in Sacramento, one lives in Petaluma. And my dad's here in Sacramento as well.
And you get together as family and get to enjoy each other? And
I wish I could say that. Actually, right now is a really challenging time. I deal with senior issues, and so that unfortunately brings out the best or the worst in families. So it is a challenge. So a lot of prayers are definitely needed because my dad's mind is going a little bit. I do remind him I was his favorite child of them all, but it is a challenge. It is a challenge, and so a lot of things of what I feel like what I'm growing up with, I'm really seeing in families and learning. And it's not that we're right or wrong. It's just that we're trying to learn. This is what we're building to, and just learning from that experience to be the best we can be.
We all get to learn our own experiences and our own speed. Tell us about the hats.
Oh, okay. Well, this is actually, I saw this. I said, this is it. This is the Walkstar hat, and these are all purchased now in Locke, California, just right outside of Sacramento. And I just got fortunate. I happened to be a part of the Chinese American Council of Sacramento, which by the way, we were a C4 organization. The foundation was founded by Frank Fatt for activism, but we actually helped spin off the foundation as well with all the other wonderful board members. But through them, I actually went to Locke and to support an event, and so I saw this hat and I said, this is it. And then we had a logo design that actually has a hat that's like this, and it was really interesting because I thought about it and I started speaking to some people in the culture, and it's like, well, it might be a little disrespectful or whatever. I thought about that. But I started talking to many of the community leaders in the Asian community. Why not just go to them, get their thoughts? A lot of people love the idea, and so I've used this as a very strong icon. What I realized is really a great conversation piece because, you get to talk about the culture. And I use this, there's actually a talk I do about perception because a hat means different things to different people. Some people say it reminds them of the Chinese hard workers. I said, that's what it reminds me of. Some people feel like it's very stereotypical and it's disrespectful. That's a great discussion piece. Some people think about Raiden, martial arts. For a veteran that's fought in the war, it could be a really sobering thing because this hat can symbolize the time when they had to shoot to kill because they didn't know these people that were soldiers were wearing these hats along with the farmers. Were they killing a farmer or somebody in the military that was trying to go after them? You know what I mean? So they killed a lot of innocent people. They didn't know. But we share about, ultimately, this is just a hat. And it's opened up so many conversations. So we wear these. I've got multiple ones, and we all have a Walkstar pose. This used to be the last year's pose. This is the new pose, more. But the hat has been a very strong symbol. And, here, of course, we have different styles. This is the one, red for Valentine's Day, right? So I know you've got a beautiful red tie.
We are in February 27th.
That's right. And I'll tell you, I've learned a lot about my own culture. And I think that we can educate ourselves just by learning and reading. What I like to do is have fun and not take ourselves too seriously. So that's why I say, again, we get a chance to party like a Walkstar. And if you had the shiny one, like I said, this could be a good martini glass too. But yeah, we wear it and we get a chance to really, it reminds me, I've learned to really appreciate a lot of the culture through it. And I love the conversations that center around this. But this has become a symbol of the Walk Star.
Tell us about your radio show.
Well, we have a radio show on Money 105.5 FM, Rush Hour for Success, along with Cami Ferry. She's the theater queen radio personality. Our whole concept is near rush hour, 2 p.m., the earlier part of rush hour. We say get entertained, get educated, and get home. We do talk a lot about community. We talk a lot about business principles, health principles. We've had some really iconic people on the show as well. But I'll tell you, that show means a lot to me because I really want to be able to bring communities together. And if you understand a lot of the cause-based organizations, there are community-based shows, wonderful shows like this, which are great. But most of the time, they'll hit the general populace of people that are community-based, you know. But I really would love that show to reach out to, because that reaches out to everybody, the general populace as a whole, and be able to use it as a catalyst to bring communities, to get their message out, what's going on. Because if you understand community work, and I'll go back to that if that's okay.
Sure.
It's like a lot of the communities, it's kind of a self-supporting infrastructure. I'll have a fundraiser, I'll invite you to my event, I'll go to your event. We're all kind of self-supporting ourselves, all the cause-based communities, ethnic communities, cause-based communities and stuff too. The people we're missing are the people that are just out there, out there doing a lot of great things. They just don't know. And I realized even people at our radio show, a lot of people that I've been able to meet through the radio show, I invite them to these events. There's anywhere from a couple hundred, several hundred people. They've never been to events like this that really focus in on the culture and community all coming together year after year. Those are the people that have the outside funds that could fund what's going on, right? Otherwise, we're just really moving the money amongst ourselves. We need to reach the outside people. I want Rush Hour to be that kind of a service where we can get out a great message. Again, infusing, getting us to really learn about each other, right? Getting us to really work together for the common good, to where we can have a catalyst of where we can have a central location where everyone wins. I believe the United Way is kind of like that as well. I don't know too much about the United Way, but I think they serve as a clearinghouse, so to speak, for contributors. And I want to do something big. And this show, I believe, we've gotten really great feedback. Sometimes we've been the top rated show on the network there. But we really want it to be syndicated. We really want to reach a lot of people through it.
How about when you go to all these events and you talk to people on your show, or you're emceeing, or whatever the case may be, and a lot of different cultural approaches? How much does religion play a part in that?
It's kind of interesting because I've had my life challenges over the last few years. Currently, it hasn't really played as much, but I find that it's something we all need. We're really focused on our nation. On our radio show, we've been talking about living the American dream. And actually, last week, we just talked about, the dollar says, "In God we trust." And I believe it doesn't currently play a whole lot, but I'm going to be starting to bring that in a little bit more in the events that that I'm a part of.
I gave a prayer at a dedication ceremony of a Buddhist meditation center in Rancho Cordova a few weeks ago. And the man who gave the overview of why they were doing that commented on it had been 900 generations since Buddha lived.
Wow.
That really rang my bell,
Wow.
when I stopped to think 900 generations, which is figured out to be 2700 BC. But that faith tradition, that belief practices has lasted 900 generations. We were just talking about three from your grandparents to you. That's an enduring, long-standing, and we say Christianity has existed for 2,000 years, and the Jewish people would say 4,000 years. And yet it sort of feels like in America right now we're losing touch with that.
I think we are. You bring up a really thought-provoking question for me, because I do think about culture. Personally, I'm a Christian, and my whole thing is I believe God should always be put in the forefront, because if you look and understand what God represents, whether you're a believer, a non-believer, it's all about good in general. You know what I mean? And a lot of these events, they really do focus on the culture, But I think there is an opportunity for some great documentaries and discussions about where God comes into play, and so it hasn't played a whole lot in general, but in fairness, I believe that religion and stuff is kind of infused a little bit in everything that we do. So it doesn't come out directly, but I think there is an indirect message to that as well, And especially if you're speaking to people that are of faith, like, whether they be Buddhists and, you're going to events. Like a lot of the cultural events, you asked about things that I've been at. I'm starting to interface a lot more with temples and temple leaders, like Sean Rahai, who leads the Keen, that's the Khmer Educational Endowment Network over in Stockton City. I had a chance to visit the temple there. It's so wonderful. And you know what I thought about? This is just me. I thought if everyone could live that peaceful life, strive to do that, all they're doing is really worshiping God, and they're doing a lot of other things too there, but the core of it is just worshiping God. I think that would solve a lot of our nation's problems, I really believe that.
Did you pray as a child?
Interesting question. I started praying, I would say, when I first got invited to church, probably around the 7th or 8th grade. That's when I really started to pray.
And how about as you were growing up as a teenager, when peer acceptance and things are so important? Did you talk religion with your friends?
I went to church. I was very fortunate because I was kind of more of the, you have those words, jocks or nerds, right? and then you had the partiers, right? So I was more on the academic end of things. Being Asian, not a surprise, right? But the whole thing, there, I think, praying and stuff is good because I was locked in, started, started to go to church and started to really find my way as well. But I can't say I really understood the commitment to God. That's not where I was at. But I did have some different times to pray and stuff as well. And I believe I was really searching. I always reached out to people. But then when I went to college, that's really when I really believed my faith really started to grow. And I really understood, wow, this is purposeful, like what I meant. We could really affect the whole world. It never dawned on me till then, when we talked about world missions at that time.
And we can affect the world quietly or loudly. We get to choose those particular things, and there's a place for both. I've often thought how strong our mothers are in affecting us, and yet oftentimes we'll say, well, Dad was out doing this and doing that, and that looked appealing to me, and all of those other kinds of things. So in the spirit of all of that, if you could wave a magic wand in your life and just make something appear or disappear or change or go away or come to be, what would that be?
Wow, that's a big question. I would say that we would all really be able to be unified in heart. We can have our differences in opinion, definitely, but we can all be unified in heart and really want to support the greater good and striving to really create our win by creating win for other people.
Why aren't we unified?
Why are we? Or
why aren't we?
I believe, my personal opinion, I believe that right now I think discipline for the states have kind of left. I mean, we're leaving God to some degree. Even talking about removing prayer from schools and stuff. I think it's caused a lot of potential division. It's let people really express themselves in an undisciplined way. When we can just actively just do things and protest while creating harm for other people in some cases, vandalizing and stuff, when we're allowing for that, it's really tough. I think we have a lot of things that we have to start thinking about and go back to the core of things. Thinking about burning our flag in our own nation. Interesting thought, right? And I believe we absolutely can protest, but they forget we should be able to have peaceful protests. And I respect the people that do that. But I think there's too much we've allowed for. We're talking about kids that can threaten their parents, oh, if you touch me, their discipline is out the window. And I respect the fact that people have gone through different experiences. I think we really need to figure out the best way to be able to provide a discipline and that we all agree with some sort of thing so that we can agree even how to disagree. I don't think we're unified in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're at the end, and the half hour goes at the speed of light. Nice to visit with you.
Thank you.
And good luck in all that you're doing.